That way, in case you get time over the break, then you can start working on this guy. The idea with him is that you're creating some sort of bipedal character that stands up, creature-ish, so it's not exactly like 100% accurate. You can kind of tweak it and modify it. And everything that we're going to create is going to be created inside of ZBrush. So like in the intro class last semester, we started doing heads. So you'd model a head, and then you bring that into ZBrush and build it from there. So this one is going to be 100% created right inside of ZBrush. You're using different tools, which is really awesome to be able to use. I have to go to close this real quick and then reopen it. There we go. And this was like the head that you would create inside of the intro class as your base head. Now the idea with creating a base head is that you can animate it a little bit easier. In the industry, if you were to model a head and you just needed it for print, like you're doing a figure for a game or something for a cover, then you could just do right inside ZBrush. If you want to animate it, eventually you need to go back and create this kind of thing so that you can have the controls to open and close the mouth, to make the eyes blink, to make the nose twitch, the eyebrows move up and down, the head turn side to side. Some people will start inside of ZBrush and model everything there, and then go into Maya or go into some other program and do the rest of the stuff inside of that to actually build the shape. So here I'm building this low-res head first and then going to ZBrush. Some people will build the high-res first and then go into Maya. So there's different ways you can approach that. So I'm going to start off using a Z-sphere. And if you haven't used ZBrush before, just a little primer here. It's most of the stuff that you're going to be editing is on this side. Up here, as far as tools go, these are all the settings for whatever tool you're currently on, and then these are all your brushes on this side. So when we create a Z-sphere, we're just going to click and drag this sphere. Now inside ZBrush, this is not actually an object yet. Right now it's kind of like it's floating object. It's not actually a real locked-in object. I have to hit T first, and then this turns into edit mode. Okay, so you can see the difference between edit mode and non-edit mode. And now I can actually spin around this area. So I click and drag with the left mouse button to move around this object. I hold down Alt and I right click and drag to move it. I hold down Control and I right click and I can zoom in and out. Okay, so Alt and right mouse button is to pan, Control and right mouse button is to zoom in and out, and then no button no button on the keyboard, and clicking and dragging will spin you around. All right. So a Z-sphere is kind of like a base object. So what it's going to do eventually is we're going to be able to create a base sphere, and then we'll be able to create other spheres that are attached to this, and it'll blend between all of them to help create all of the poses and the likeness of our character. So imagine, like if we're in the animation class, this is a joint. Okay, so this is like the pelvis joint. So what I need to do is create the hip joints for him. So I'm going to add another Z-sphere to this. Now if I just click and drag, it adds one Z-sphere to it. What I want to do is pull out like where the hips would be, where the, your hips. So I'm going to hit T, and T, nope, sorry, not T, X, wrong program. X turns on my symmetry. Okay, you can also go to transform and go to symmetry there. And now if I pull this out, you'll see how I get two of these. So now I'm pulling out the hip area where the legs would be. So there are these leg areas here. Now I'm going to do that again, right there. Then I can switch to my move tool, which is nicely the same hotkey as Maya's, and I can just pull this down. Okay, so we have the pelvis, we have kind of like the top of the legs, like that-ish, and then we have basically the knees. And then I'm going to switch back to my draw tool, which is Q. And then I'm just going to draw another one. Oops, right there. And so he doesn't walk like that. Let's straighten this out. All right, so there's the legs that are inside here. Now this looks kind of funny right now, but what we'll be able to do is that if I hit the A key, it takes our spheres and actually puts it into geometry. So it's a really quick way to start sketching out what our character is going to look like. So I hit A again, and then I can go ahead and move these pieces into different spots. And it depends if you click on this area here or the sphere itself. So you can see I grab the sphere, it moves it that way. If I grab the circle, it's basically just rotating it around this sphere. That looks weird. Let's go there. Let's go there. There we go. Okay. Now you're not going to get it perfect in this stage. All we're going to do is create a rough structure. Once we have the rough structure, then we can go back and refine the rough structure. So now I'm going to hit Q again, and I'm going to start to draw out the feet. So I go there, pull this out. I can go to scale, which is E. There we go. And oops. I messed up. Let me undo that. And then there we go. Okay. So I'm going to go to my scale, which is E, and then I can shrink that down for the foot. Okay, maybe I'll pull this here, pull this back there, pull that down. Okay, so now we have some sort of foot, and then let's go up to the top now and start creating the spine. So I'm going to hit Q again, and then start dragging the spine stuff. Now, if I grab here, so like I drew one for the spine, so I have basically the bottom of the spine and the top of the spine. I can go anywhere in the middle of this and click and drag, and it'll create another one right at the center. So that's an easy way to be able to go through and create one at the center and then move it where you want it to be, instead of having to go through and click where you want them to go. So what's nice about this is that you can basically start creating the pose of what you want your character to do. So if you want your character just to be standing like his arms are out like this, you can definitely do that. Because we're dealing with just a still that we're not going to be animating or not going to be tweaking, we can start to customize what we want it to look like. So my guy, I'm actually going to have him kind of like hunched over a little bit with his shoulders kind of rounded forward. I whistled. Let me go here and pull that out and go up here and pull this over. That's cool. Like that. And then we'll grab these. Come on. There we go. So now I can hit A and see what it looks like so far. Okay, now here's where the power comes in. I don't like how tall he is. Like, he's like way too tall for what I wanted. I wanted maybe shorter legs, a little bit stockier guy. So I can just very quickly just kind of start moving these points in. Now if I want to grab a whole leg here, the whole foot, whoops, I can hold down Alt and drag that up. And then I just need to pull these maybe out a little bit more, pull that out a little bit more. There we go. There. So that looks better. That looks more like the idea that I had in mind. And I'm just going to add maybe another little division here. And I'll scale this one up a bit, scale this one down a bit. That's kind of cool. All right, so there's my character. So I'm just switching between A back and forth to get that to look the way I want. And then I'm going through and hitting Q and starting to draw more stuff here. So here's going to be his neck. And let's see. Come on, right there should be his neck. And then I'll pull out maybe another one for his neck here. And then I'll pull out his head out of this one. Okay. Now again, you're not going to get it to be perfect. It's just kind of like a placement. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. So this needs to be a lot bigger. Nope. What's happening here is that I have too much of a transition. Okay, so right there it works good, but then when I start getting too big, I'm losing it. So it's shortly after that. Yep, see, it's gone. So I have to kind of incrementally do this. So maybe not like that. Maybe this guy comes down a little bit more, and this goes in, and then we get bigger. Oops. Well, I want one head. There we go. Okay, and then I can start to go ahead and tweak some of these to get my positioning correct. I know I'm looking straight down. Let's angle this up a little bit. Okay, so you're looking for a pose is what we're doing. So I'm just trying to find like a cool way to show him off. And I'm thinking about this now so that when I get to that stage of rendering him out, he's already kind of in the spot that he needs to be.
You want him to be humanoid characters?
I just want to be biped. He doesn't have to be human. He can be alien, creature, monkey, whatever.
I mean, like, other animals or no? Like, you're looking for something that's actually like...
Something that's a little bit more, something we haven't seen before.
Okay.
Okay, so something with scales or, you know, something cool. The neck is like way too thin. It's like way too thin, buddy. Let's go here to scale. Yeah. Scale that up. And some of these can be a bit tricky to select, so you just got to do your best to get in there and select them. Alright, now his neck is like way too big, so then we can start pushing stuff down. If you want to eliminate any of these too, you can go back to your draw tool and hold Control, or sorry, Alt, and just click on it. And then it'll go away. There we go. That feels better. And I think I want to angle him up just a little bit more like that. Okay. Now this isn't the final product, right? So this is just a starting point. So his shoulders obviously look weird. His hunch looks weird. I need more volume in there. I'm just trying to get the general gist of what he's supposed to be doing.
There's a school license for ZBrush, so we can use it at home.
There is not, but there is a 15-day license of ZBrush that you can download the trial for.
Already did that for another class.
Then you can get a different email, maybe?
You can't do different emails?
I don't know. I don't know if you can do a different email or if you have to, like, wipe your computer. I'm not sure. There we go. That looks better.
Burn me a disc, man.
All right. So then we can go ahead and add things like the hands in here too. So I'm just going to zoom in and hit Q. And I'm going to pull out this hand.
Does it have to be done in ZBrush?
Yes. So he doesn't even have to have like 5 fingers. He could have just, you know, whatever. This guy, I think I'll make him have 3 fingers. Even odd numbers always best. That's good. And I'll go through and just kind of click. And because I have symmetry on, you'll see that the other side is also symmetrizing. All right, I think his hands need to be a bit bigger, so I'm just going to go to my scale tool and hold Alt. Come on. And hold Control and drag these up. It worked a second ago. Keep working. There we go. And I'm going to shrink these down. I think I want to have like little nubs, like his fingertips are a little bit bulgier than the rest of it. Yeah, that'll be fine for now. Alright. So pretending that that is good enough for where we're going to go with this, this is my base shape. This is what I'm going to start my whole model on. So down here under adaptive skin, whenever we hit A, I'm previewing this thing. So if you see this, that's what the adaptive skin is. And I could take this density up if I needed to, just to see what it would look like at a smoother resolution, or even a rougher resolution if I needed. So I'm going to take this to maybe, let's say 2, and then say make adaptive skin. Now what that does is it creates a new tool up here. So inside ZBrush, everything is essentially a tool, not an actual like piece of geometry. So if I click on this one, and then I were to click A back and forth, you'll see that it doesn't do anything, because now that's my actual piece of geometry. If I need to go ahead and tweak it, I can click back on here, hit A, and do all the tweaks I need to, and then go and make it an actual adaptive skin again, and then I could click on that to start tweaking it. So inside of this, what I want to do is start to shape what he looks like. So one of the things about ZBrush is that we have the ability to go through and tweak stuff at a bunch of different resolutions. So right now I have 6,000 points. If I hit Control D, it'll multiply it times 4 and give me 26,000. And Control D again, 100,000. Control D again, 400,000. And then I can go through and start to add more detail to the character. So you can see how I can pull this up and make him have, you know, a bigger back. Oh, I lost some stuff there. I can change my brush over here, so I can use something like the clay buildup brush to, let's say, add some detail to the character. So if I wanted him to have that kind of head, I could do that. If I wanted this to be bulgy, I could obviously add that also. Okay. Now at a lower resolution at this, I can't do that easy because I don't have enough divisions to do that. So that's why we need to add more divisions. Now I can go forward with the divisions. Okay, so if I hit Control D, it takes me up to that next level. Control D again, Control D again, Control D again. It takes me up to that next level. If I want to see what the previous level looked like, I hit Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. And I get all the way back to this. Now to get back up to it, I just hit D. Okay, so at any point you can work on any of these. You could work on the lowest resolution, you could work on the highest resolution. And from stuff in Maya you can't go, like if I tried to do 400,000 divisions on a surface in Maya, it would basically freak out. If I hit Control D again and then Control D again, I'm at about 7 million polygons, and Maya would definitely freak out. But you can see how smooth ZBrush is able to handle all of this stuff. So that's why we're using ZBrush for this. Now, it may seem kind of silly to use this kind of tool for a character like this, but the point is that we can paint this, we can texture this, all the detail we add to this, we could then put on a lower res version and put inside of something like a video game or an animation or whatever. So I'm going to go back to my character, so I'm just going to hit undo until I reset this. This is your undo bar right here, so I'm just hitting Control Z until this goes back to not many divisions, right there. Cool. All right, so there's 5 brushes that I use inside of ZBrush. One of them is the move brush. So inside here, if I go to the brushes and I say move, right there, then I can go and move this. Now I still want to turn my symmetry on, so I hit X. So now I'm symmetrical. And now I can, yes, it's fine. So now I can start to move some of these shapes and start to define this character a bit more than just those spheres would allow me to do. So I'm going to kind of accentuate this hunch that he has. And I think I'm going to pull the ribs out some. But I want his stomach to be maybe pushed in some. Okay, and the same thing for this. I'm going to kind of pull these out a little bit more. What was that?
Make that booty.
Now remember, I wanted you guys to print something too, so this is a great project that you could actually print. 3D print, not just regular print. Okay. So that's one of the brushes I'll typically use is this move brush, and it's good just to kind of move pieces into certain areas. That's what it's good for. Another brush is a smooth brush. So you can go up to the brushes, you can find smooth, or you can hold shift, and that will automatically take you into smooth, and then you can smooth it out. Now it's going crazy smoothing this here, so I'm going to hit undo, and all of these are my settings. So the Z intensity is how much it's moving in and out. So if Z intensity is too high, it's going to do that. When I hit shift, that's a different Z intensity. So I need to crank this down, and then I can start to smooth out some of this without it going crazy. A little bit higher. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going through now and just kind of smoothing out some of these areas. Alright, that's cool enough for now. The hands I typically, I'm not going to demo the hands in this time. And what you want to do is think of this thing as, you're doing this in iterations. You're tweaking the shape of the face, you're tweaking the shape of the body, trying to basically get it to the level that you want this character to look. I'm going to really pull these up. Push that down. There we go. It's kind of creepy looking. Alright, so now I'm at the level where I need to add more divisions. So I'm going to hit Control D. Now we have more divisions. So now I can do more stuff at this division level. So I can start to shape these shoulder blades a bit more. Start to smooth this out, start to pull this out. Okay, so I'm just using so far the move brush and the smooth brush. Here's some more ribs. And this part's going to look weird here. I need to start smoothing and moving that. Start pulling this out. There we go. Alright, so another brush that I will use is the clay buildup. So it's right here. Now all the brushes that we go to, they all have hotkeys. So if I just simply click B, that brings up all of my brushes. If I click the first letter of the brush, clay buildup, which is C, it'll take me into the C area. And then clay buildup is here, so that's the hotkey is B. So very quickly I can get to the clay buildup by hitting B, C, B. And now I can go through and start adding some extra geometry on top of this, and then maybe smoothing it in. Now, eventually I'm going to get to the point where my resolution stuff is going to look really weird, especially here. This looks really funny how this is kind of lined up. So I'm going to have to do something eventually at that point, but right now I'm just kind of smoothing this out as best I can. Like I think even maybe just pushing some of this in. So I'm going to hold down Alt. Let me take the intensity down. Hold down Alt and then click and drag. And this is a pusher. So it'll do basically the opposite of whatever my brush is doing. And then I'll start to smooth this out. And then I can start to round these a little bit more. And then start to smooth them out. So what I'm doing is basically defining where the muscles are, defining where the bulges are on the character. And that will help give our character a little bit of life to him. And I can switch back to the move tool and maybe pull this out, pull this out. And then start smoothing that. And if I need to, I can hit Shift D to go down to that lower level and then smooth it, and it'll actually be a little bit easier to smooth this stuff out at that level. There we go. Okay, and I hit D to go back. Alright, so you can see how the shape is basically just getting into this structure of this character. So now I'm just defining some of the back area. I'm holding down Alt so I can create more of the spine. It does really help if you have a tablet. And because these don't have to be human, you can really kind of add just detail wherever you feel it's necessary. As long as it looks realistic, not just like, you know, this and that's how he's supposed to look. I'm going to hit Control D again and just kind of push that in. So there he has this like six-pack ab thing that's going on. And there's his ribs. And these are going to flow right into the back. And this is what's nice about it, is that this program is so we're not restrained by adding divisions and spots. It's basically just like overall adding divisions and then just putting information where we need it. That could be just a little bit bigger here and there. Just going through and smoothing out some of these areas. Alright, so then at some point I need to go through and start defining the face too. So I'm going to go back to my clay build-up brush. I'm going to start pushing in like the eye area here, pulling out the nose area, and defining the mouth area a little bit. Okay. Now it's not perfect right now because I don't have enough divisions, but it's just kind of blocking in some of the stuff. Blocking in where I want the eyes, where I want the nose, where I want the mouth to be. Flatten out some of the sides of the head a little bit. I'm just using my clay buildup brush just to kind of flatten it some, not that much. And then smoothing it out. Going to my move brush and just tweaking where these points are at. Come on. And then if you need to switch to a different level, you can hit Shift D and start to switch to a different level. Like I said, sometimes these areas are a little bit easier to tweak at a lower level. Especially smoothing out things is much easier there. There we go. So now we can hit Control D again and then start to again add some detail. So if this was a face that we were actually modeling, this may take some time just to get the overall structure of the face set up inside of Maya or Cinema or whatever program we're using. But in here, we're basically just adding in the divisions where we want them to be. We're adding in the nose where we think it should be. We're adding in the eyes where we think it should be. We don't need to worry about points and divisions and everything else. Okay. So this is going to be your first step in creating this, is going through and creating your Z-sphere guy, which is right here, and then taking him and then creating your higher resolution version of this. Now this is where most of your detail is going to come in, is just by adding more and more detail to this. So what I recommend you do is, as you're, none of those windows are open. As you're working on this, you actually go through YouTube and start watching speed sculpting videos.
Then you're just gonna feel slow.
What?
Then you're just gonna Slow.
Right. Actually, that's a cool one there.
There's a good smog one. There's another small one's head.
Smog? Yeah, that one's good. There it goes. So you can see the process of this is not going to be a quick one. A lot of this is going to be going through and just kind of defining areas and defining areas and defining areas. And you can see here how he's giving his putting the fingers in. And you can see how rough he's going. Now his setup is a bit different than the one that I showed. I want to show that also so you can see it. This way we're working with all these divisions where we could jump between them. So I can go to the low res version or the high res version. There's another thing. I'm going to save this by hitting Control S and call this Creature 001. And I'll put this into my 2520 work. Sure, because I saved it there. Okay. So it saved it there. Now it's thinking still. There it is. Okay. So inside here under the geometry area, there is a thing called Dynamesh. So I'm going to delete all of my lower resolution stuff. So this is my highest resolution. I'm going to go to Dynamesh and set my resolution to like 256 and then hit Dynamesh. Now what this does is it redistributes all my divisions on this entire thing evenly. So now I have 300,000 divisions and they're all even. So as I start to play with this, I can basically just kind of move these points around and then blend the points together. Okay. Now what's nice about it is this. I can take any kind of object and say let's append a sphere. Whoops. Come on. So I'm going to move the sphere to, let's say, his head. Perfect. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine these two subtools together by going to merge and say merge visible. So now I have this subtool, or this tool up here where they're both connected. And if I hold Control and marquee it, let me make sure it didn't turn off. Nope, it did. I'm going to click on Dynamesh again. Sometimes it'll turn off. But what it does is it actually puts these two objects together. So you could actually build like one finger and then duplicate it all over. So now these two pieces of geometry are locked into one. There's not a whole lot of resolution. It's 131,000. I can make this more by adding more here and then holding Control and dragging until this comes up. So this is refreshing it. So every time I do that, what it's going to do is rebuild the entire surface and basically try to figure out where all the points should be for us to keep as much detail as possible. So you can go up really high with this number, like 4,096 or 8,192. Got to make sure that your system can handle it. 131,000 at, I think this was at 128. So we should be in the millions if this finishes ever. But the downside to this is that we can't go back and forth. I can't go to a lower res and a higher res. It's nice if you know the workflow and you know exactly where you're adding it, but it's a lot easier for beginners to work with not this version at first. To work with the other way of hitting Control D to subdivide and then Shift D to unsubdivide. And you can see my status bar right here is going across. And while we're waiting for that, let's just jump over here. So this is if this loads, this is a Sculpt January thing. There's a lot of people who will, to better understand the tools like ZBrush or Maya or anything, they'll basically spend an entire day, not entire day, but they'll spend basically an entire month working on projects one per day, right? So it doesn't matter how far you get. Let's say it's an hour. If you work in ZBrush for an hour every day, each day you're going to get better and better and better. Each day you're going to get faster and faster and faster. So there was a contest called Sculpt January back in January of this year, and they had a thing where you would basically sculpt one item every single day. And by the end of the month, people are like lightning quick, and you only have however much time you have to work on it that day. So if you have, 1,000 errands you have to do, sometime in that day you have to figure out what your stuff is. I don't think he shows it in this video. No, I think it's down here.
How much ZBrush is?
I think it was 500.
Do they give like student discounts at all, or?
$372 for student.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
For what, ZBrush?
Yeah. There we go. So this is 2 million polygons is what it ended up being. And if I click on my poly frame here, you can actually see the wireframe. Okay, if I zoom way in, you can really see it. It's super dense, it's not clean at all, but it's all one shape. And so you can basically, I want that one. There we go. So you can basically start to add some geometry to this and start to smooth it out and whatever. And you'll see it goes straight across each piece of this geometry. Okay, which is nice if you have that ability to do that. A lot of times I'll take a model into ZBrush just for Dynamesh so I can combine everything in one and then do a 3D print of it. Okay, if I had 1,000 objects, it makes it much easier to do than trying to boolean them, which doesn't always work. Yeah. Yeah, so there's that one. So far I showed the clay buildup one, which is this brush here. Adding clay basically to your character. I've shown the move brush so you can move stuff around. I've shown the smooth brush, which would typically smooth stuff out, but I have so many polygons here, so many divisions that it's not really doing a good job of smoothing. Even when this is up much higher, you can see it's barely smoothing this. There's also another one called the Damien standard, or the DAM standard, which is this one. And what it allows you to do is add in these crease lines. So here's the ribs. I can go through and hold down Alt, so it does the opposite, and add this like crease line right here. So that's obviously really sharp. Maybe I want to go into this area and kind of push that in. There we go. So there I can like use this to create like little cut lines so that his ribs and his abdomen have a little bit more definition. Or I have a line right here around where the elbow would be. And the same thing on this side, I can go in with my, my clay buildup tool just to add a little bit of elbow definition, and then maybe cut some lines in here with this. Okay, so there's lots of different things you can use that for. Also, I will use just random ones. You can look through all of these and see what else is there. Some of them are kind of neat once you get further on and you have a lot of divisions, like crumple. I've actually used this just for kind of props, like wrinkling something up. All right, so if I want to give him some kind of like neat texture, like, this is an alien, so who knows what his body's supposed to look like. So I can do something like that, and it creates this really cool texture on him. Oops. Also, I have stuff like elastic. There's flatten in here. Flatten. So I can actually flatten an area out. Right? So if I'm trying to create, I don't know, ribs or a chin, make it a little bit smaller. And see how I can flatten out some of these areas here just for adding definition to it. Oops. I've also used polish is a good one. In this case, I don't really think we're going to see a huge difference. But basically what it does is just kind of crisp up some of the edges. So it goes through and finds edges wherever they're at, and it just makes them a bit crisper. You can kind of see it happening here where all the definition we have, it's just kind of like enhancing it. So again, something kind of neat that you could use. Wrong button. And then the standard brush is good just for adding some basic movement to it. So you can see I'm just kind of pushing and pulling each one of these. Okay, so like I said, lots of brushes inside here that you could play with. Typically I use the build-up, the clay build-up, I use the standard, I use the dam standard, and then the move and the smooth. Those are typically the 5 brushes I will use on a daily basis. Other ones that you could use too, like the slice or trim curve, there it is. Yes, I know. Trim curve is a bit tricky because you hold Control Shift and you click and drag, and what it does, if I have the stuff selected right, is it should trim this. It's thinking again because it's rebuilding the Dynamesh. Every time you hold Control and you drag, it rebuilds the Dynamesh for you, and then ZBrush is going to close. I'll wait for it to respond. I'm going to wait for it to respond. Yeah, it hasn't crashed yet on my computer. There are ways to create masks too and do a whole bunch of other stuff that we just, like in one lecture I can't get to. I'll have more lectures when we get back from break, but just so you can see the timeline while we're waiting for this, we are gone on Wednesday, so we don't have class on Wednesday, and then we have 2 weeks of working time, and then that's it, and then we're done. Okay, so our semester is coming to an end really quick. And even over break, I'll have some videos too that I can record for, doing ZBrush stuff. I think it's that important to see. The character's last assignment. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there.